All right, good morning. So this session of our Agent kvCORE training, we're going to cover smart campaigns. And then if there's a little bit of time at the end, Tracy is going to go over the listings section. Today, we're not going to get too deep into smart campaigns. Tracy is going to show you how to clone one a little bit later. That's easy to do. You can clone a campaign, kind of copy it and edit it and make it your own. But, making your own campaign from scratch is probably going to be a whole nother class, maybe down the road a little bit. It's a little more complicated, but we are going to give you the basics today. I'm just going to start with what is a smart campaign. So in kvCORE, let me share here. Now we're going to log into kvCORE. And so to get there, first we have to go to Max Center. And to get there, you go to remax.net. I hope you all know to log in with your remax.net email address and whatever password that you created to get into Max Center. Once in Max Center, you'll probably see a link right off the bat for the platform Max Tech powered by kvCORE. If not, you can go to the All Apps and Tools over here on the left. But if you click that one, it'll bring you over to kvCORE. So in kvCORE here, I am going to go over to the marketing section. It's the little paper airplane icon. And you can get to the smart campaigns either by going to all marketing. There is a tile in there for the smart campaigns, or you can go directly to it by hitting the smart campaigns option. So when I go over to smart campaigns, you're going to see all of the smart campaigns that are available for you to use in kvCORE. So kvCORE calls all of their campaigns smart campaigns because they contain much more than just emails. In the Vault on our Homes in Colorado platform, we have email drip campaigns. Those just contain emails. Again, it's a way to communicate and engage with your contacts and leads in both CRMs, in the Vault and here in kvCORE. But the kvCORE campaigns contain much more. They can contain emails. They can contain text messages. You can add phone calls or tasks, for yourself, reminding yourself to do something. The system can add or remove a hashtag within the campaign, or it can change the status of a contact or lead after they've completed the campaign or somewhere in the campaign. The key is that there are a bunch of them in here that are pre-created for you, here for you to use, and it's really easy to get started using them. So I'm just going to kind of run you through what you see here when you first log in to the Smart Campaigns section and kind of explain what it all means. So at the top here, when I log in, if you're a team leader, if you're a team admin for a team, you're going to have a drop down at the top left here, and you'll be able to select either yourself, as an individual agent, or you'll be able to select your team. So team leaders, you have the ability to create smart campaigns just for your team. You might look at some of these campaigns in here and, if you want to edit them or maybe change them a little bit so that they're more, maybe geared towards your team, you can do that. And then your team members will have that campaign available for them to use. So keep that in mind. But if you are a team leader, make sure that you are on the right scope in that drop down at the top if you're creating a campaign for yourself or for your team. So when I come in here, it's going to bring me to this first section, the My Campaigns section first, and I'm going to see all of these campaigns. There are a bunch in here, and you can tell a lot about these campaigns just by looking at this list. Now, the first thing you're going to see is the name of the campaign in this first column. You'll see what it's called. And then there's a little description for each campaign, so you can kind of tell what each one does or maybe what it's being used for. All of them have either a start date or some sort of trigger that actually starts the campaign. So under this column where it says starts when, you'll see this one has a start date. This one has a hashtag attached to it. So that's how that one is started. It'll start for those contacts and leads that have that hashtag. This one is just a reminder that goes 7 days before a lead's birthday. So you'll see they all have different starts. These all say that they're designed for certain folks as well. So under this column, you'll see this one is for buyers, sellers, and renters. This one's specifically for agents. This one's for everybody. You can see what each campaign, who the campaign is designed for. And then under channels here, you can see what kind of actions or what pieces are included in each of these campaigns. So this one is only emails. This one has emails and texts. This one is a single task. That's that reminder about a lead's birthday. So you can tell what kind of pieces are in each campaign. So in a SMART campaign, they're calling all of those actions. So these campaigns contain certain actions, because again, it's not just emails in these campaigns. And then over here in this column, you can see how many touches or how many actions are in each of these campaigns. And then there's a few other options at the end here. Tracy's going to get into more details on some of these when she actually clones a campaign and shows you how this works. But there is an option in campaigns to select that they always run. So within kvCORE, the system tries not to send too many things to any single contact. Basically, if a contact falls under the criteria of several different campaigns, the system is going to choose just one campaign to run for that contact, so they're not getting too many communication. Because if a single contact gets too many texts or too many emails, what are they going to do? They're going to unsubscribe, right? Because they're getting too many things. So the system tries to limit the number of things that go to any one contact. So if a contact, falls under the criteria of 3 different campaigns, it's going to choose one. Normally, it'll choose maybe one that is higher in the hierarchy. Like if there's a company campaign and then an office campaign, it's going to choose the company campaign. Or it's going to choose the campaign that has more specific criteria that that contact fits into. But if there's a campaign that is set to always run, that campaign will always run on top of whatever other campaign the system chooses to run for that contact and lead. So it is possible for more than one campaign to run for a single contact and lead, especially if there is a campaign in there that's set to always run. So that's what that option is. And then you'll see over here under status, most of these campaigns are turned off. So when we first launched kvCORE, every agent had all of these default system campaigns in their account. They were all turned on simply because that's how the kvCORE platform works. The platform is very good at engaging and communicating with leads to keep the conversation going, because they know that agents aren't always available to do that, right? You aren't always available to reach out to a new lead right off the bat. So the system is designed to do that for you. That's what a lot of these default campaigns are. You'll see when you go through this list, there's a default active buyer, default active renter, active seller. These campaigns are designed to be triggered for new leads and active leads within your system to try to keep that conversation going with them. But when we first launched kvCORE, leads started coming in, and of course the system was communicating with the leads, and then the lead would communicate back, and it got kind of confusing because nobody understood exactly what was going on. So we opted to turn all of those campaigns off. But we recommend that if you want to really use kvCORE, start using the system, come in here and look at some of these default campaigns, see what they contain, what kind of actions are in there. And if they look good to you, if they look like it's something you might use, if you have new leads coming in and you want the system to communicate with those leads, you're welcome to turn some of these on. Turn some on and use them and have them engage with your new leads that are coming in. There are a few in here that you'll see that are turned on. And you'll see here's a RE/MAX Buyer's Guide, a RE/MAX National Housing Report, and a RE/MAX Seller's Guide campaign. These are new campaigns that the RE/MAX support folks have just recently put in there. They're very simple. They're just basically one-off emails. And the only reason that these are turned on, and they're turned on in every agent's campaigns, is just to make it easy for you guys to assign a single, one-off email campaign to some of your contacts and leads. Now, these are turned on, but they aren't automatically going to run. As you can see on these particular campaigns, there are no start triggers defined. So that's another option you can choose in a campaign when you're creating one or cloning one, is you can opt to have no start triggers. So even if that campaign is turned on, it isn't going to run because there isn't really a trigger defined for it. All of these other campaigns that are off, they are not going to run anywhere at all because they're off. The campaign needs to be turned on in order to be used. So I'm going to show you real quick how you can use these 3 RE/MAX campaigns that they put in here. These are just simple, again, one-off email campaigns, but you can easily assign these campaigns to one or more of your contacts and leads. So if I go into my contacts, I have a couple of fake contacts in here. But if you want to assign one of those RE/MAX campaigns to a contact and lead, to assign it to a single contact, just click on the contact's name. So you'll go into the contact's details here. And on the right here, you're going to see when you scroll down, there's a section for active campaigns. So I have the ability to assign an active campaign to this contact. And I would just hit the add button. And you'll see in here, only those 3 RE/MAX campaigns are visible because those are the only 3 that are turned on in my campaigns in my account. So I can select one here and add it to this contact. If I want to add a bunch of contacts and leads to one or more of those campaigns, I can select a whole bunch of them here in my contacts. And then under the more actions, again, I have the option to add campaign. And again, if I go in here, I'm only going to see those 3 campaigns that are active right now in my campaigns. And I can add that campaign to those folks. So that's an easy way to use those RE/MAX campaigns that are in there. And that's why the RE/MAX support folks built those in that manner, is that so you guys have something easy that you can just assign to a lead or a number of leads right off the bat there. All right, and then the last column over here, this scope, this just tells you where this campaign is coming from, if it was made at the company level or the office level. If you start creating campaigns for yourself, it'll say user, so that campaign was made at the user level. I'm just going to go over some of these tabs up here as well. So we're in the My Campaigns section here, and that's where you're going to see all of your campaigns. But there's another tab over here called System Library. So this is the library that contains all of those default campaigns. There are some in here called system campaigns, but that's where all of these campaigns come from. You'll see over here on the right, there's a button that says Add to My Library. You probably don't need to add any of these to your individual agent library because they're already in there. But if you would like to, create a new one, maybe for your team, if you're a team admin, this is how you can get the campaign over to your team account in the My Campaigns section. If you use that Add to My Library button, it'll move that campaign and put it into your My Campaigns over here. But all of those campaigns that you see in there came from this system library. And then this last tab here, templates. So now the templates are all the individual actions that you find in every single one of those campaigns in there. So basically the templates are all the pieces that go into a smart campaign. And you'll see there are different tabs here for all of the emails that go into the campaigns, all of the text messages, all of the calls, task reminders. And then this last one, this webhook, is something a little bit different. You probably will never use this, but a webhook is another action that can be used if you want to get another third-party vendor involved in your campaigns. So say you're working with an online postcard vendor, you know, that will send postcards automatically out on your behalf. You can ask that vendor, hey, you know, can I send you information via email, you know, using a webhook, you know, to trigger a postcard campaign? And if they say yes, then, you know, you can figure that out and say, okay, what kind of parameters do you need? You can create a webhook that will send information like a contact's address or their email address or something like that, that can be put into a postcard campaign. And then that third-party vendor will get the information to then send a postcard out. So that might work for, you know, say you have folks putting in their home address at the AVM page, you know, for an automated market value. You could create a webhook that then grabs that address, puts it in an email, sends it off to that postcard vendor, and then the vendor can send a postcard out to the address, you know, that maybe says, has your information on it and says, if you'd like a complimentary, you know, market analysis, please give me a call or something like that. Again, so a webhook would be something that you would use with another third party. It's basically an action that can be sent to, you know, another third party to trigger something else. But all of these pieces are what are the actions in all of the smart campaigns in kvCORE. Now, one of the things that you'll see over here on the right is an add template button. So you can add any number of templates in here. I would recommend, and it kind of makes sense to me, that if you are going to make your own smart campaign from scratch, all of the pieces or actions within your campaign are all going to be templates. So it might be handy to come in here and create all of your templates first that you're going to put into your campaign. And then go back to the campaign. You see there's an add campaign button here so that you can start with the campaign logic. How is it triggered? How does it start? Who is it designed for? And then, you know, you give it a name and all of the details. Once you add a campaign in here, then you can start adding the pieces to it. So if I click into a campaign here, you're going to see I can add an action. And so this is where you're going to add your templates. So if I want to add an email to this one, it's going to ask me right off the bat, okay, what template are you using? So I could just pull in my templates if I've already made the templates. Otherwise, when you come in here and start from scratch and you don't have the templates, it's going to ask you to name what you just did and make a template out of it anyway. So Tracy is going to go more into that. She's going to actually run you through cloning a campaign, and that will show you a little bit more about how all of those actions work and how you can add and remove them and do all of that fun stuff.
All right, thanks, Shannon. So I am in an agent account. And again, how we got here is you can click on the menu bar on the left, and then you go to marketing, and then we went to smart campaigns. And then of course it brings you back to, it defaults to your My Campaigns tab. So from here, I'm going to go in and actually show you a campaign. So we're going to go down. It is called the default new lead buyer, and it's got 43 touches. So I'm going to click in, and actually right from the beginning, I'm going to go ahead and clone this, because then I'm going to show you how you can go in and edit and some of the different features that are in here. So you'll see in the center here, this is kind of like the, campaign options. So in here, it gives you an option to clone. So I'm going to say, yes, I do want to clone this. And so from here, it brings you into kind of a step-by-step of, okay, you want to clone this. Now, how do you want this to look? So we are just for this going to do the very simple. We're just going to follow what this already has in place. I'll explain some of the features under here, but again, we're not making any changes to this. We are just flat out making a copy of all the settings that are in here, except for we're going to change the name. So I'll kind of show you that. So it says here, the first thing is campaign logic. So this campaign, when do you want it to start? It is a new lead. Maybe it was a contact that was transferred to you, or maybe you want this to be triggered by a hashtag. So the first one is new lead. You can just leave it and not be very specific on what the source is. It can just be, a new buyer lead, a new seller lead, and I'll show you in the next step, it'll kind of walk you through and then you select who this is going to be going to. But from here, you could also, let's say you have Boomtown leads. You could come in here and it will populate it. It gives you the option to search. And usually it'll pop up, but it's just kind of lagging here. But you would say, yep, anytime I have a new lead coming from Boomtown, this is going to be when this campaign starts. But again, we're just going to do the default. So we're just going to leave that alone. And you see now it's popping up. But from here, you can also do a hashtag. You could come in here and tell it, okay, instead of it being a new lead that triggers this campaign, I actually am farming a neighborhood and I want to add that hashtag. And then next step would be to go to your smart CRM, then select everybody that you want to be part of that. Let's say Windshire is a neighborhood hashtag. And then from there, it could potentially, once you have this campaign turned on and activated, it would automatically start sending based on how this campaign is set up with, emails, text, and it could be reminders to send things to your contact or lead under here. It is very important when you set up this with a hashtag trigger that you come in here and you create the campaign first. Then you would come in here and you can actually create your hashtag under here as well. So you could add and then select, and then that would create that hashtag if you didn't already have it in the system. After you have set up the, settings for this campaign, you would then go to your smart CRM and go apply that hashtag to the contacts that you want to get this campaign. So it is just really important that you follow those steps because you have to first set the campaign up. You have to make sure that it's activated and that it's turned on. Then you have to go to your smart CRM and add those contacts to that hashtag. It can only move forward. It can't go back. So that is just one of the key points, and obviously a little more advanced, but just kind of wanted to explain a little bit of how that works. And as Shannon mentioned, down the road, we'll have some other more advanced trainings to kind of walk you through how to do some of these features that I'm talking about under here. So we're not going to add additional triggers. We're again just copying this, but so we're not going to do anything. We're just going to leave it as is. Always run. Again, as Shannon had mentioned earlier, this, you most times are just going to say no, you don't want this to always run. The only time that maybe you would have this is, let's say maybe you have a seasonal campaign that is holiday that goes out on a regular basis throughout the year, and you want that one to always run no matter what other campaigns are going on, no matter what contacts are tied to that. That may be an instance that you would say, yes, I want this to always run. you just, again, as Shannon mentioned, you have to be careful because you don't want to have too many things going out and then for them to unsubscribe. The other feature here is locked. And now I didn't mention this, but up at the top, particularly if you are part of a team, there you will see up at the top here a scope where you can either select you as the individual agent, or you could also, select, say, for the team, if you were going to create this campaign for the team, you would make sure that that scope was right. But as an individual agent, you're not going to see that scope under here. With that being said, locked campaign, this would particularly come into play if you were, say, the team lead and you created a campaign for your team. And maybe this campaign needs to go out to all of your leads that are tied to your team and also your team members, contacts, and leads. So if that's the case, then you would come in here and say, yes, I am locking this. But otherwise, you're not going to, because then that means that nobody else can come in here and change it. It just will automatically be locked and it will go based on triggers. If the triggers apply, then it would automatically be sent out. So again, don't really worry about that, but that's what that locked feature is. So now we're going to do next. So from here, now we're on the designed for, the second step. And now it's saying, okay, who is this campaign designed for? Again, we're just making a copy because this is a new lead and this is a buyer. But you also could come in here and say, no, actually it's for all. Or you could pick and choose and say, actually, it's for buyer and for seller. So it gives you the capability where you can pick one, you can pick multiple, or you can pick all. So again, we're just going to go to the next because we're just making a copy of this. From here, now the name. One thing I think it would really be a good idea, would recommend, is when you are making a copy of a campaign and also when you're creating your own campaign, I think it's a good rule of thumb to come in here and put at least your initials in here. So that way you will know that this was one that you came in and changed and had, made updates to. Now, it also is going to change the scope when you actually save this under your My Campaigns tab, and it'll show that this is yours as the user instead of, say, the company. But again, it's just a good rule of thumb. I would put your initials in there. And then from here, you also, if you want to change, which is not a bad idea, the description, just so you kind of remember what this campaign was, or at least reword it just a little bit so you know that this was one that you had cloned and made a change to. And again, each time we move to the next section, it still always gives you this option to change those if you want. So you'll just see those always kind of there at the bottom. Now we went to the next step, which is review and add. So basically it's just giving you that opportunity to preview it real quick, make sure everything looks good. If not, you can go back and, adjust as needed. So now we're just going to go in and say, we're going to finish. So now that I have cloned this is now my campaign as the agent. And when you do that, over here on the left, it actually, particularly when you have gone in and made the edits, say, just like we did, we went and cloned this campaign, I now can go in here and edit this. So if I wanted to change this title or anything of this, I can go back and make adjustments. So that's really what that feature is here. Again, when you are setting this up, I have found that, especially when you want the campaign to be turned on, it is a good idea to turn this on under here. So you would basically click on that button and you would say, yes, I want to, I want to activate this. When you do that, that just means, like Shannon had showed, then you can go into, say, your smart CRM and then go and start adding this campaign to those different, leads if you had created this and you had some different triggers. But with this one, because we are cloning it, basically the triggers are, it applies when a new lead that is a buyer comes into your smart CRM. Now, again, it won't go backwards, it just goes forwards. So from here on out, when you have new leads coming in that are buyers and you had turned this on, it will start automatically sending this campaign to those new buyer leads. This is also where you can come in and delete the campaign when you need to. This also gives you the capability to share it. And so when you share this, you basically say, yes, I want to share. And then it gives you what's called a token. So if you wanted to give this, campaign to somebody else, you don't necessarily, it depends. As a team, there's just another layer. So there is where you could do it under the team scope, so you wouldn't necessarily have to share that. But if you had somebody else that wasn't part of your team and you created this campaign and you did want to share it with them, you can basically do that share. You can click on this, which is just that little clipboard. So it'll copy it. And then when you go back, I'm just click to go back to campaigns. You can click on this little copy clipboard, and then that's where you would paste it, hit enter, and then that campaign would go in. So that's kind of how the share part goes. This campaign history, really that's just giving you a history of any edits that's been going on to this campaign that you had created. So that's really all that is. Down here at the bottom, again, as Shannon mentioned, campaign action. So this is giving you a list of all of the different actions that are tied to this campaign. And I'm just going to walk you through just a few things, how you can go and remove, how you can edit, and how you can add. So from here, what we're going to do is you'll see we have the first action is it immediately. So when this is turned on and it is a new buyer lead, and that contact comes in and this campaign starts, it's immediately going to send a task, and it says new lead, send a text, and it's from the system to you as the agent. So that is what that first, action under this campaign is. We actually, the second one, it says immediately the system is actually going to call you as the agent, and it's going to leave you a voicemail to follow up with this lead. So we are going to say, okay, we actually want to remove this because already feel like, the first task is enough. So I just hit remove and I want to say, yes, I want to remove. So then it always kind of lets you know in this far left when that action has been successful as well. From here too, there is another one that I want to delete, and it is basically down here at the, so you'll also see as I'm scrolling down, this has a lot of, different actions, and it goes out all the way to day 720. So I actually, here where it says day 710, it's another call that's going to leave me a voicemail from the system. So I want to remove that one as well. So I'm going to go and say, yes, I want to remove, and then that was successful as well. So now I'm going to go back up and I want to go to day 3, which is, or I should say, it is kind of like this first email. We'll go into this one. So we'll go into day 3 and we're going to do email. And this one is buyer, second email. This is going from agent to contact. So I want to go in and edit this. So from here, it will show you kind of what this, what this looks like, but you can also go in and edit. So in this instant, I just want to go in and change this. When you do change, so that could be anything from just a few words in here. What's going to happen is you're now going to be creating a new template because you made a change to the original that was in here. So I'm going to paste that in here. And from here, actually, I'm going to cancel, sorry, because it deleted a little bit more than I wanted to in there. So we'll go back and we're going to edit again. Because, oh, actually, it doesn't have it in there. Just kidding. Usually at the bottom, especially the emails, sometimes it'll have like your name and your details. And we've showed this in our other, especially when we were going through profiles in our training, several weeks ago. There is an email signature that is tied under your kvCORE that you can either go in and edit or you can use the default. So because there's not a signature or anything showing under here, that's okay, because when this actually gets sent out as an email, it's still going to have your email signature that is linked to your kvCORE. So I just kind of want to make sure you understand that, because it's not showing up here, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about adding that additional information here. So I went in and I just pasted my message. Now you can see it's saying, okay, what now do you want to call this template? Because you have now changed this. So from here, I am just going to go and call it exploring your property options. Actually, I'm going to make this the subject line instead. And then the template, what's really important about this is you just want to remember what this is, as far as, because this is going to now be in your templates, kind of like Shannon showed just a little bit earlier under the template section. There's the email, there's the text, and then there's those others. This is where now we're creating this template. So down the road, if you want to use this again, you can very easily go find it and pull it in instead of having to go and reinvent it every time. So we're just going to call this exploring options, and I'm going to say this is new buyer lead email. And then maybe you say like email 3, just so you kind of know what that is. And sometimes it will also ask you to change the name of it over here. So usually I just copy the template name and just put it over here. So also over here, and I'll explain this a little bit more in the next one that we go through, you're going to see it says, okay, this is going from agent to contact. So that's kind of how that got set up. And then it also is, how many days, it could also be hours or minutes. You can go in and change the timing of this, when this would go out too. But for this one, we're just making the edits to reword it, and we just changed the template name because we wanted to use ours instead of what was in here. And now we're just going to go and say, okay, we're going to save this. So now from here, you'll see that it even kind of changed that a little bit. So it does look different than what it was before. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to add a task. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on add action, and I'm going to add a task. And again, as Shannon kind of showed earlier, you can also add other actions, but for this one, we want to add a task. So from here, I want to do, because this is a task and this is going to be sent to me to remind me to follow up with this new buyer lead. So I am just going to put in here, check in with new buyer lead, either via text or email. Now, again, I have to create the name of this so I remember, so it will keep this in my templates. So in the future, if I want to use this, I can, but it's also saving this so then I can use this in the Smart campaign as well. So I'm just going to do checking in, new buyer lead task reminder, and I'm just going to put that in there. But so from here, again, a lot of times I just put that over here as well. And this over here is name is just for your reference, is really all that is. This over on the left is the actual name of the template that you just created. So now I want to tell it, this is my task. And remember, I said I want this to be 185 days out for this to remind me. So I'm going to go in and say the time unit is days. And the time value, I'm going to type it just to make it quicker, is 185. So now this new task is going to remind me at 185 days to either text or email this new buyer lead. So I'm going to hit save. And so now when you scroll down, here's my task at 185 days. So now the other thing I want to do is I want to go down to the bottom. And again, really recommend, just like Shannon said earlier, go in and look at some of these campaigns. And if you do like them, clone them. And then also kind of come in here and make them your own. Make sure the messaging is what you want, that it sounds like it's coming from you, that it has the, reminders or the actions that you want. Because you'll notice, especially even in this one, I see there is a lot of calls. And so there are some text messages or some emails, but in between there is a lot of calls. So you actually could probably tighten that up a little bit more and remove some of these and adjust some of this. But again, Inside Real Estate did create these, and they did say that these were successful campaigns that they've created. So sometimes it's better just to keep it simple and just go with what you see in here. It's just nice to know that you can come in here and also edit and change them as you like. So from here, I'm going to go down where it has this day 720. And what it's telling is, okay, the last engagement here is actually day 630. It's going to send an email from me as the agent to the contact. And then at day 665, it's going to call and leave a voicemail. The system is going to call me as the agent and leave me a voicemail to follow up. I kind of feel like, this is already quite a ways out. You could go in and add another task or something, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this day 720. So I'm going to go in here and edit, and then you can scroll down. And from here, what it says is, okay, at day 720, it's going to change the status of this contact from new lead to Spear because there hasn't been any further engagement. For me as the agent, that doesn't really make sense to me. I think I might actually want to change the status and go in and maybe archive this contact, because I have gotten no response after 720 days. So I just went in and changed that status. And then I'm also going to update this. So then I remember that. And then I'm actually going to change the days, because 720 after 660 days is quite a ways. So I'm going to change that to 665, because that will give me a little bit better window of when the last engagement, at least reminding or calling me, and then I can decide what I want to do next. So I'm going to hit save, and now you can see it had made those changes. So those are just a few things that you can do as far as when you want to clone. And then also when you come back over here, you will notice when I go down, it will now show that new campaign that I created. So it's right over here. And you'll notice, so remember the first one was this first one, default new buyer lead, and the scope was the company. But when I made that actual copy of it or cloned it, it now changed the scope to user, because I went in and made that change. Now this button should be on. I actually kind of stopped it and told it not to turn on, but it should be on. If it's not, then you would click on this to turn it on here, and then it would be ready to go. And then you could go under your smart CRM and apply your contact. Or actually with this one, I'm sorry, this one, it just triggers based on any new buyer leads that come in. That would then trigger that campaign moving forward because you had turned that on. So we only have just a little bit. I am going to go into listings and briefly go through a little bit of the details in here. Now, when you go, I just clicked on the settings again, and then you can click on listings. Now, the main highlight under here is you're going to look at your listings, but you will see it also gives you the option to see all MLS listings. So that is all the listings outside of not just Remax Alliance, but everything in your MLS. There's the company listings. You can manually add a listing. That's not really going to come into play. The only thing I can think is for some reason if it didn't sync from MLS, but then that would be a support ticket and then we would go and they would fix that for us. But you do have the capability to manually add if that was ever needed. And then this is also where your sold listings will show up. And then there is also a way that you can show these on your website as well. So from here, we're going to go to my listings. And from here, it's going to show all of your listings, and it will give you kind of a summary of, what is going on as far as everything that's listed through here. There is a little shortcut, and you'll find this a lot when we go into different sections of kvCORE. This is saying, hey, do you want to go to Design Center? Or maybe you want to go to your core listing machine. We're going to go through that next training. There's just some different options, again, where you could promote or also adjust. What happens with your listings is when they get fed into here from MLS, kvCORE will automatically create what are called marketing assets, and you usually get a notification on that. And what those marketing assets are marketing pieces that you can use right away. So it's, social media, it's flyers, it's brochure, it has that ready for you to use. And we'll kind of walk through that next time, but that's kind of what this is tied to. Also where you'll see you can view your assets. We can also see them when we go into your listing, and also where you could say create new assets if you wanted to do that. So from here, we're going to go into a listing. And I do want to mention there are times where you might see your listing in here twice. This might more so be for Northern Colorado, but what will happen is sometimes if you have your listing in both Iris and RE Colorado, you might see your listing in here twice, and that would be the reason why. When it is RE Colorado, you'll just notice that the MLS ID will have an IR in front of it. So at least for Northern Colorado, if you see duplicates, I would just use the one that is Iris, which would not have the IR in front of it. So we're just going to click on the property address and it'll bring us in. So from here, this listing detail, it's giving us an overview. So what this allows you to do under this listing section is you can come in and add additional enhancements or changes, updates. And then what you change on here actually then reflects on your property page that is on your remax.com website. So for instance, here, maybe you wanted to enhance the description. So maybe you wanted to change the wording. You want it to look different on your website versus what was in Iris. So this is where you could go in and edit this wording. You also, let's say for whatever reason, maybe you didn't have the virtual tour or a video link in Iris, but you wanted to put it in here. You can go in and add and edit this as well and add those links. But again, a lot of that, when you put it into Iris or into RE Colorado, all of that should be feeding in here. So if you did already add that under your MLS, it should be feeding into here as well. Then from here, you'll also see some of the features on the right where, let's say, if you wanted to do a real quick and send this to somebody, you could send via email. This is also where if you wanted to do a property boost, you could do a paid property boost, which is tied to Facebook and Instagram. We kind of had showed that in one of our last, few trainings. This is also a feature under the playbook that we also did a training on. But basically in here, you would go pull this, say, yes, I want to do a paid property boost to promote this listing. And then you would just walk through those steps from here. You also, there's additional more actions. So pretty self-explanatory. There is a way that you can also post to Facebook. Next time, we're going to show you how you can also go into Design Center, and you can either use the marketing asset that kvCORE already created for you, that is the social media image, or you could go create your own. And then once you go in and create that social media image under Design Center, there's a whole nother layer where you can go in and also post that onto your social media platforms. The difference between the Design Center with the image versus the one here is this post will just basically have a link and it'll show the picture of the property, where with Design Center it would have the social media image that you designed and then it would post that. So just different ways that you can do different actions just depending where you are and how you want that to go. So you could also generate a QR code, which there are various layers where you can create a QR code for your listing under the kvCORE platform. Under here too, it also has a direct link. So if you were in here and you wanted to copy this link, that basically just takes you to your property page on your remax.com website. And this is where you could share it as well. And then you'll see it'll show any, upcoming open houses that might be showing up or scheduled as well. Lead activity. So this is more so tied to Property Boost. So Liz actually had done some paid advertising, and this is just giving a summary of all those leads that have come in from there. Brokerage activity, just again giving you a summary of how many views have been under our Remax Alliance, and it gives you that summary and then the history and everything. So we'll real quick, gallery, that just lets you go in and edit. You can either upload photos if you wanted it to look a little bit different than what it was from Iris. You can also go in and hide photos if you wanted to do that. There's also the similar listings, and nearby listings. So really what this is doing is, again, it's just trying to help as you're listing, like, okay, well, maybe you want to select a few of these and email this to somebody, or maybe you want to text this listing to some of your contacts. It also has, additional actions. But again, it's just trying to help you on different ways under kvCORE where you can promote your listing, maybe show similar and then share those out. It's just some of those different layers. There's also where it's got view activity. So there's a couple of things with this. View activity, that tab mainly is going to show you the contacts that were, say, tied to Property Boost that you have done. So it's going to give you a list of everybody that came in on that Property Boost. So that paid ad that you did on Facebook and Instagram that was promoting this listing. And those leads came in because they wanted to know more about this property. Under that timeline, it just gives you the capability where you could then communicate with them if you wanted to. There's also matching buyers. So this one is the layer where it is going in and looking at contacts that are under your smart CRM that have the criteria that matches this listing. So there could be some layers to it. It could be the criteria that you went and put in under that contact, or it could be based on maybe search reports that you had set up under that specific contact. And then based on the fact that it was similar to this, it's letting you know that it might be good to reach out to them. So you can also select, send a mass email, send a text to let them know about this property. It also gives you the capability when you click view in CRM, it actually creates what's called a hashtag, and it will group everybody together. And then you have another way where you can go in and communicate with them under there. So again, just kind of walking you through, some of those different ways that you can communicate, reach out, and let everybody know about this listing. And then it also will give you analytics of what is going on with this as far as views. There is also under here, which I didn't mention, there's a section in here where you can also the timeline. So in here, it will keep record of any open houses that it knows that had been scheduled, but you can also come in here and add a comment if you wanted to. And that could just be updates of things that you've done for this, listing. And then after you add all your comments, you could go and send the seller report. And then what it would do is it would give them all the timeline details. Not needed, but that's just another layer of what that is for the timeline where you could share it then with your client. There's also listing promotion. So when you click on this tab, what it's going to do is it's going to show you all of the marketing assets that have been created for this listing in particular. It will also let you know where your listing is and the status of the journey right now. So right now, she just recently did a price change. So it's just letting you know that, okay, this is the status of where your listing is now. It's going to give you an overview of how many people have viewed this, how many leads have come in, and all of those details. And then down here, it's also going to show you all of the assets that it's already created for you. And sometimes you can also click to load more and it'll show everything. So I know it's like, no, a minute to spare, but that is basically in a nutshell, just kind of, that additional layer of how you can go in and promote your listing, maybe add enhancements, and then also see that on your property page, which is tied to your remax.com website. Thanks for joining,
All right.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone.